Hello students, welcome back. I'm hoping things are going in pretty smoothly till now. So when we took a break, we said that we are going to continue with objects and arrays, and we are going to talk about operators as well. So let's continue from here. So in this particular session, I'm just going to define object, but we are going to deal with objects in lot detail in later coming sessions. But what is an object? Object is basically a collection of properties. It could have variables, otherwise called as fields, or functions, otherwise also called as methods. Okay, so I define an object which will have variables and which will have functions working on those variables, but there is no class concept in JavaScript unlike we have it in Java. So what is an array? Array, we all know that it is basically a representation of series of elements. Okay, so to create an array of an element, I could have it as var, which is a keyword, and the name of the array equals to two braces, that is square braces. You have opening and closing of square braces over here, and in the index you can mention it from in the index you can mention it as n, where it will run from 0 to n minus 1, representing n elements. Okay, but beautiful property of this particular array is it can store different values, or different store values of different other types. Okay, and it also has a property defined with it where you mention the array name dot length will basically tell you as to how many number of elements are there in the array. Likewise, you also have methods where reverse, which is going to reverse the whole list of elements, or push and add an element into the array, or in case you want to concatenate two of it, you can make use of concat function as well. So here is a small example where we are going to define an array and probably make use of concatenation, or just show you as to how it is represented. Okay, so there are two ways through which you can actually define array or create an array. As you can see, you have the first one where you make use of new keyword in order to create a new object of array, or a good way to do would be just to make use of square brackets and define the three values or four values, whatever the number of values which you want to define inside that inside the square braces. Okay, so there you go about defining car3. So let's look into an example of this. So as you can see, I have the function defined. Well, I'm not still talked about functions, so we will keep it for a little later while as such. But what is it you need to understand within is very much present over here. So I have a counter which is defined to 0. I have keys which is defined as string, but it is undefined. Okay, and I have a array list which is named as my list. Okay, which has got three values initialized to it: Chinese, English, as well as Japanese, or Jap for short. Then what I'm doing is I'm inserting Indian into this particular list, which will get added in the end. Then I'm going to concatenate all these three values by making use of operator plus, okay, into my keys. So keys will basically have uh, the index value of Chinese, English, Japanese, and Indian, and values over here will be the value which is present in that particular my list, and I'll make use of counter in order to progress through the elements of my list. Okay, so finally it is going to return keys plus values, which is going to get embedded within an inner HTML, okay, into this particular paragraph, which is demo. So let us run this particular example and see as to how it works. So this is the example. Here we have seen the demonstration of for loop, but explanation we will see it a little later. So as I see, it's showing a alert: Chinese, English, Jap, Indian. Now it should also display the index, which is 0, 1, 2, 3, followed by the values which are present in the array, which is Chinese, English, Japanese, as well as Indian. Okay, so this example, it kind of demonstrates for loop as well as make use of an array in order to browse through the array elements. So let's continue with the presentation. So there are different ways of putting the values into the array. So the first one, you have temp1 defined. It says it can hold 3 elements. If you want to initialize, you can put in the values of the 3 elements over there. Here are 3 elements with different types. First one is an integer, the other one is a string, followed by a boolean value, where temp3.length is equal to 10 will define that this particular temp3 array will have space to accommodate 10 elements, but 3 onwards till 9 will be defined as undefined. But you can go about defining it in a later stage. So you can make temp3 of 99 is equal to something, so that will extend the array much larger, add something to the 99th element place, and anything between 3 and 98 will still be undefined. So what is this null and undefined? So any value which is not defined, okay, which is not initialized, we define it as undefined, whereas null represents absolute nothing, it's a void. Type conversion. So type conversion in the sense you can convert it from one type to another type. So for that you have to understand as to what are the values which are treated as false. So a null or a undefined or plus or minus 0 or not a number, which is in abbreviation represented as NaN, or an empty string, all these values are considered to be as false values. So how do you do a type conversion? In case you want to convert a value to a number, you can go about saying some variable minus 0. 0 is a number. Okay, so whatever the variable you have, minus 0 will convert it into a number. Similarly, if at all you want to convert something into a string, you can just add an empty string to it at the end. So it will make it as a string. Or you want to convert something into a boolean, two exclamatory marks that is not of that particular variable will go into, it will go into convert that particular value into a boolean value. So what are the operators it uses? As in any language, it could be like C, C++. Here also we do have arithmetic operators, post, pre, increment, decrement operators, comparison operators, as you see in this particular list. When it comes to comparison operators, you have all equal, not equal, greater than or less than, greater than or equal to, all these relational comparators as such. Similarly, you have equals as well, and strictly not equals as well also being represented over here. So here is a list which gives you the difference between equals and 3 equals present together. Now let us see as to what exactly it means. Now when you look into this particular value, v1 will basically get either a true or false value, because here you are comparing two numbers. When you compare two numbers, the output would always be in boolean, whether it is true or false. So what is it you are comparing over here? You are comparing 5 as a string to 5 as an integer. Okay, when you make use of this equality operator, it is going to return true. Okay, but in case you are going to make use of this particular equality operator, then it is going to differentiate and say that these two are two different data types altogether. But here what happens was a implicit data conversion took place and it said that both of them are equals. But here a more stricter rule applies with respect to the data type when you make use of 3 equals and it says that it is not equal. Okay, but whereas these two are actually equal, so 5.0 or 5 is considered to be as 2. Now these are certain intricacies which you people have to really understand before you use them in your programs. So what are the logical operators you can have? A logical NOT and unlogical OR are some of them which you can have. So how does it get evaluated? When you make use of an logical AND, if operator 1 is true, expression evaluates to the value of operator 2. So if 1 is true, finally it boils down to whether operator 2 is true or false. If it is true, final expression will be true. If it is false, the final value will be, return value will be false. Similarly, when it is logical OR, so if operator 1 is true, then the expression evaluates to operator 1. Otherwise, the expression evaluates to value of operator 2. So these are some of the examples which makes use of logical AND, OR and NOT. So continuing with the operators, you have string concatenation operator. We have already made use of plus, which will concatenate multiple operators to be of one particular string. So if there are other operators which could be concatenated, then automatically they'll be converted to an equivalent string value and it will be used. So these are few assignment operators which you can make use of in the short form, and as well as bitwise operators which are present to be used. So let's take a break here before we continue with control statements.